to LEMD's live educational series. I'm your host, Honey Sagari, and we are so excited to have you join us tonight as we explore the latest in health and wellness. At LEMD, our mission is to empower individuals to live healthier, longer lives through education, community, and innovative healthcare solutions. We believe that learning from experts can provide invaluable insights for optimizing your well-being. And tonight, we're honored to introduce a leading figure in naturopathic and functional medicine, Dr. Revée Barbour, also known as Dr. Ray. And let me brag on her a little bit. Dr. Ray is an award-winning, board-certified naturopathic physician with over 20 years of experience in healthcare and nearly a decade in clinical practice. As the founder of A Dose of Vitamin Ray, I love that, a telemedicine clinic that operates in California and New Hampshire, Dr. Ray takes a root cause approach to healthcare, focusing on personalized and integrative solutions. Her expertise spans women's health, regenerative medicine, peptide therapy, biotoxin illness, and metaphysical medicine. We're going to talk all about that. She holds a master's of science in integrative medicine research and certifications in various specialties, including natural childbirth. Wow. In tonight's session, Dr. Wei will discuss the role of nutrition, fiber, and hydration in optimizing GLP-1 therapy, peptide therapy and its applications in anti-aging and functional medicine, and the importance of liver health and how to support it during therapy. Join us for an insightful discussion as we take another step toward living our healthiest, most vibrant lives. Hello, Dr. Ray. Thank you for being here tonight.
For having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So we're all about education here at LEMD, and we have our community, and we believe that big movements start with small communities, okay? And so you share your knowledge with us, and we'll just pass it on and share it with our communities, and together we could lift everybody up together. So thank you. This is really important to us. I want for people that might not be familiar with functional medicine and naturopath doctors, can you share with us what's the difference? What's the difference between conventional medicine and MDs, GOs versus naturopath doctors?
Yes, of course. So the primary difference is like we all go to medical school, we get trained, we're licensed, we're board certified. So I like to make sure I emphasize that because sometimes there are lay practitioners that are not licensed but might call themselves naturopaths. So I do want to emphasize that what I do in my profession, we've been licensed and we are considered primary care providers, although we are able to go into specialties and niches. And primarily, one of the areas that differentiates us is that we understand that the body self-heals. And we really use that as a major tenet. And when we're working with our patients and when we're embracing these healing practices, we believe in doctor as teacher. And we understand that if we're able to bring to the body the right resources, the support, education, then we're able to pretty much eliminate disease or at least prevent it as much as possible. It's this concept and understanding that you can use minimally invasive tools, nutrition, lifestyle, natural therapies as first line options before we just go to the big stuff. And it's not that we don't value pharmaceuticals and surgery and these larger interventions. We do. We just want to make sure that we're bringing additional options to the table so that people know that you can choose, and there are sometimes we don't have to go with the big guns. We can focus in on the incremental changes and the foundational work in order to get big results.
I love that. So longevity has been a passion of mine forever, since I was a little girl. I want to know how you found your passion and how you became a naturopath doctor. And tell us a little about A Dose of Vitamin Ray as well. I'm curious.
Okay, so I knew ever since I was a child, I wanted to work with people and help them to heal. And of course, when you say that, like, I want to help someone heal or I want to make your boo-boo better, the first thing they're going to tell you is like, oh, you want to be a doctor, so that's started very early for me. I kept that path throughout all of my life and stayed steadfast. I thought I was going to go into conventional medicine, but I did have a change of heart because I experienced where different loved ones were having health issues in and out of the hospital. And I just saw where there was limitations. I also grew up in the mountains of Virginia, and we do use home remedies and folk medicine. And, we would make sure that we would do everything in our power first before we're going off to the doctor. Part of that's just because, trying to save money. But then I can honestly say that those remedies worked. And so I do think that that informed me in ways that maybe others didn't even realize, about medicine and how expansive it can be. And then what brought me into naturopathic medicine, it was divine intervention. I always lead with that. And I also use the help of technology. So I did an internet search at this point, like almost 20 years ago, and knew I wanted to do something in medicine. But, I was like, well, what kind of medicine would allow me to do nutrition? And how can I talk about people's lifestyle? And how can I, maybe use some natural stuff too? And lo and behold, naturopathic medicine pop up. And I found out, there's accredited schools and universities and you can get a doctorate and all of this and training. And so that the rest is history from there. It was a bit of a windy path. I'm not going to say it was direct. It was very windy, but I ended up here. And, I went to medical school. I did the whole 4 years. I did a residency. I worked in a private practice. I've also worked in a hospital. And what led me into my own private practice was I wanted freedom. I wanted freedom to really be able to help my patients in ways that I think sometimes when you're working in larger systems, you have to have your hands tied a little bit. So initially it started off with, a different name of the practice, but eventually I got to a dose of vitamin Ray. It was actually a kind of running joke when that happened, but I was like, I love it. I think it has a catch to it. And that's really what I'm trying to bring is a dose of vitamin Ray into people's lives, of showing that there's a different kind of doctor. There's a different kind of way that we can heal, and we can really integrate this into our lifestyles, into the larger communities that surround us.
Oh, I love that. Look, the comments are coming in. We love all of what you're saying. So a lot of people are here because they want to, either they're using GLP-1 medications or they're considering using GLP-1 medications. They want information. They want to be informed. We don't really talk, doctors aren't trained. And part of the reason I asked you that question is a lot of doctors aren't taught nutrition in medical school, so they don't know how to advise on nutrition. So we really want you to shed some light on the type of, because the nutrition and the hydration is a little different for a GLP-1 user than, a typical person trying to lose weight. So I want to touch on that. But before we get started, for anyone who hasn't used GLP-1 medication, can you talk about, maybe we don't go into the details of the mechanism of action, but just an overall understanding of how GLP-1 medications work? Do you mind shedding some light on that?
Yeah, so this class of medications act by mimicking our own GLP-1 hormone that we produce in our gut. And part of the way that it works to help with weight loss and lower blood sugars is it works on the brain, in order to help regulate our appetite so that we're not having as many cravings and that we feel more satisfied with our meals, we feel more fuller. It also works on our insulin levels, so it allows us to release insulin, which will bring down blood sugar, allow it to be more balanced, which again is going to lead to just general health and weight maintenance. And then it works in a local way in the gut, in which case it slows down how fast food leaves out of the stomach, how it leaves out of the gastrointestinal tract. So you're going to feel fuller for longer. You're going to eat less as a result of that. So that's the primary ways in which it works to support us in type 2 diabetes and obesity and weight loss mechanisms.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so with that slowdown of digestion, that's why we're all here, comes a series of other nutritional support that you need. So can you talk about some of the side effects and how can our nutrition support that? Yes, let's start there. Go down.
So when you're taking GLP-1 medications, one of the biggest things that we just talked about was that you're going to have a change in appetite and you're going to probably end up eating a lot less than what you've been used to. in doing that, there is a concern around nutritional deficiencies, for example. Are we getting enough nutrients? And so this is where we're going to want to prioritize high quality nutrition, nutrient dense foods. We're talking about high phytonutrient foods, high fiber, high protein, and really making sure we're getting, eating the rainbow, so to speak, in order to make sure that we're best supporting our system. The other thing to think about when we're starting these medications and how it might impact us is like, you might skip meals. And that's something to think about, paying attention to still ensuring that you're getting in, regular time meals. Not only is that going to be, it's going to be healthy for you long term.
Yeah, and also, I mean, when I was using I've lost a lot of weight once on my own in life, and for me, we'll talk about protein. Protein is key, but also on these medications. And I know that I just couldn't tolerate sugar in the same way.
Yeah.
Can you explain why it's so difficult to digest sugar and why we should be cautious of our sugar intake while we're using GLP-1 medications?
What's interesting, let's kind of reshape the conversation around what sugar really is. So we do need sugar in our bodies, okay? Our brains, our muscles, our organs will not run without glucose. Our liver depends and also makes fructose. These are sugars. So sugar itself is actually a necessary nutrient in the body, so to speak. But what we're talking about is refined sugars, right? The high refined sugars that comes from like eating white sugar or white pastas, white rice, processed foods. Those particular types of what I call nutrient poor foods, when we're on GLP-1 and you're not having that fast release and digestion, it becomes even more poisonous. So it's already poisonous when we're eating it in the regular diet anyway. We can have it in moderation when we're able to balance it off with a lot of good foods. But when you're eating when you're eating copious amounts, or in the case in which, you're on these medications and there's a slowed rate in which it's being released and broken down and metabolized, it's going to sustain sugar in your bloodstream for a much longer. And so while the medication might be working in that regards, you're still putting extra brunt on your liver. So it's going to be a lot more of a liver burden. You're going to put more burden on your gut, burden even in your pancreas in some ways, because even though you have the medication, it's still working to try to release that insulin. So in that case, it's almost kind of like thinking of it in the sense of like alcohol, because that's also a form of poisonous sugar too that we got to watch out for. In addition to the white sugar, it's really trying to limit this toxin, right? So we just want to be mindful in general about how much of this toxin that we're really ingesting in our bodies, because then if we're not detoxifying it fast enough, then it really is poisoning us and starting to cause disease, inflammation, and this starts to cause deterioration of cellular activity, deterioration of your other muscles and tissues and organs. So, to me, that's the biggest piece to understand.
A question came in, and I thought it's very interesting. People talk about how certain foods will make the meds not work. What does this mean, and is it true?
What foods in particular, though, are you talking about? Are you talking about eating sugar, like or junk food and processed foods?
Well, in
Or
general, I guess, are there foods that you should try to avoid altogether while you're taking medications, and sugar, high glycemic index foods specifically?
got it. So yes. So again, we kind of talked about that. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of countering the effect that you want. If we're trying to balance out your blood sugar and you then eat this high glycemic food that's going to increase your blood sugar, you're doing the teeter-totter effect. So that might not get you the results you're looking for. Now I will say there are conventional docs that say you don't have to change your diet. I'm just going to throw that out there because I've been in the room with folks saying you can still eat what you want. It doesn't matter. You're just going to eat less and you'll still lose the weight. And some people still do. They'll lose the weight still eating what they want. But the question we want to ask, is that really what lifestyle change and sustainability should look like? And also considering, do you really want to be on this medication forever? Or do you really want to use it as a tool to help you reach a goal? And while you're reaching that goal, you're also employing these other helpful habits, changing these habits that will be your long-term sustainability for when you either decide to come off of it, or to be able to reduce the amount that you take. So yeah.
So,
Juices all go into that too.
no, thank you for touching on that. So there's a lot of people on social media, let's just say that. There's a lot of people on social media that talk about, oh my God, don't go on GLP-1 medications. You're going to lose muscle, right? Can you touch on that? We briefly talked about McCall. It's like that's true of any sort of diet, but
Yeah.
where is this fear coming from, and what can we do to avoid this muscle loss?
Right. So typically, when we go through rapid weight loss, it isn't just fat, it's going to be losing of the muscle as well. And if you're also talking about a demographic where there's a lot more of a sedentary lifestyle, so there's not much muscle built up or lean muscle mass as it is. Then you're really depleting into what reserves you do have, but that doesn't happen for everybody. I think the thing to think about is, again, this is a tool, but you do need to pair it with these other habits and behaviors in order to really get the most out of it. So exercise, strength training, resistance training, those are going to be ways that you can help to still charge up those muscles, those muscle cells, maintain more lean muscle, eating more protein in the diet. That's key as well. Making sure you're getting enough protein. Protein is going to help sustain that lean muscle mass. But in general, I do want people to think about, whether it's through rapid weight loss or whether it's through aging over time, lean muscle mass is a vital sign. So no matter what age you are, you should be thinking about how much lean muscle mass that you actually have on your body and using that as a vital sign for your health.
Yeah. So as far as thank you for touching on the protein, because like I mentioned, I've lost significant amount of weight on my own, and it became a protein game for me. Get enough protein, you lose the weight. Don't get enough protein, and the weight loss stalls.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Why is protein critical? And also, how many grams of protein would you recommend to your patients?
Protein is a very critical macronutrient. When we think about macronutrients, we're talking about proteins, fats, and carbs. We're really talking about foundational fuel. These are the nutrients that are going to really fuel us day to day. When we're looking at protein, it really varies person to person, genetic circumstances. Some people might need more protein than others. But I really think in general, we're on average, we're trying to looking at for people to having between a moderate to high protein diet. That can sometimes be anywhere between, 30 to 50% of your diet. Some of us might even do a little bit more than that, depending on what goals you're trying to get. As far as how much protein, to have, that's variable. I mean, there's an equation you can use. It's 0.7 times your weight in pounds, usually tells you how many grams of protein to get per day. If you're trying to go for a certain goal weight, then you're going to probably use that goal weight times that 0.7 amount, and then try to go for that in grams per day. Now, to that other piece of the question where you're like, why is it that if you have too much protein, you can stall out in weight loss? You might just be hitting it depends. You got to really think about it in the full context. Are you stalling out in weight loss, but you've already lost a lot of weight? Sometimes it could also be you kind of have to shift up your caloric load. It isn't just about the protein, but trying to shift things up a bit. Sometimes you might have to eat a little bit more or a little bit less of some other things like healthy, slow carbs, healthy fats in order to balance that. And if it's in a different way in which you still haven't reached your goal, you still have a lot more weight to lose, and you feel like you're eating too much protein and that's part of it, I would say maybe do like some diet diary or tracking and make sure that it isn't just the protein. Because I think sometimes there might be other hidden factors. Maybe you're creeping in more on your carbs. Maybe you're doing more fats than protein than you realize. Maybe you're not hitting certain exercise aspects of that. You might need to do a little bit more strength training or add in extra cardio. This is where having an expert can help you out in tweaking that, because sometimes you can drive yourself crazy trying to figure it out by yourself. But if you're working with a personal trainer, or you're working with a nutritionist, or working with a functional medicine doctor, a naturopathic doctor, we might be able to help you figure that out and determine if there are other things. It might not just be the protein. It could be some other stuff going on.
Yeah, just so I'm clear, I wouldn't lose weight if I didn't get enough protein. So that's
Okay,
where it was. Yeah.
got it.
As soon as I would, just chuck my protein shakes or whatever it would be, the weight would just start shedding off of me.
And
So yeah.
that makes sense because that's probably because your blood sugars were more balanced versus if you weren't getting enough protein, you might be experiencing more peaks and lows in your glucose, which will stall out your weight loss.
So are there specific foods that you recommend to individuals on GLP-1 medications? Are there certain recommended foods that I mean, okay, I'll tell you, I love the Tim Ferriss, what is it, the slow carb diet? That's the one I recommend. It's high protein, low carbs. But what do you recommend to your patients?
I think it depends on again your health status and the health factors in place. I mean, high protein, low carb is certainly one way to go. But I think you might need to think about too is if someone has kidney problems, for example, going high protein will be a problem. Because your kidney's not going to be able to handle spilling out that much protein, so in that particular case, you might have to go over at a different angle. It might be more moderate levels of protein, and you're still trying to balance it out with fiber and lots of antioxidants, lots of non-starchy vegetables, in order to save you. Or you might have to go a little bit more plant-based, depending on if you're having fatty liver problems. So I think this is the point I'm trying to make, is that there isn't a one size fits all when it comes to a dietary approach. The biggest thing is you do want a healthy plate. If you're eating fast food and you're not having, leafy greens, or not having non-starchy veggies like broccoli and peppers and eggplant and things like that, if you're not having enough fiber in the diet, and you're prioritizing just fats and protein, that can be problematic. So it's really making sure that again we're meeting your body in a way that feels good to you. And that what might work for one person might not work for the other. One person might do awesome on a slow carb based diet where it's high protein, low carb. Another person might actually do much better on a plant-based diet, and have it be like 80-20, in that regards, so I really, encourage people to just listen to your body, start really connecting to your body, because this is what this process is about. A lot of times we've gotten to a place where maybe we've done, gain weight, or feeling more fatigue or not feeling as good because we've really lost that connection within ourselves. And we've steered away from the habits and the behaviors that are going to be really nourishing, and sustainable for us. And so this is really also a process about checking in and really asking what feels good, and what's also allowing me to see the results that I want while also feeling good.
Mhm. And for someone who's not experiencing weight loss, you touched on this briefly, but maybe there's something else going on. There's hormones. So can you talk
Exactly.
about, like menopause and
Oh,
hormones?
yeah.
How does that play a role in our weight loss journey? So it's not just the
Oh,
foods. Like, yeah, can you touch on that a little bit?
so much, so much, so much. So, I want to clear a myth, because there's a myth that people tend to think that your metabolism just slows down, right? Like you hit your 30s, you hit your 40s. So my metabolism's slow. That's why I'm getting fat. And the truth is, we finally have some research to dispel and say, actually, we don't really experience a true shift and change in our metabolism until we hit that sixth decade. So it's in your 60s that it finally starts to slow down. So what's happening before then that's starting to cause the weight gain, that's starting to cause these health issues? And hormones is a big topic there. Not only do we have to think about the world we live in, especially this Western world that's loaded with industrial pollutants and toxins, biotoxins. So we got mold, and we have, tick-borne illness, and we have endocrine disruptors through plastics and through body products and parabens and phthalates. Oh my, right? Like, so these pieces are impacting our hormones. We also have stress. And stress is huge when it comes to weight management and our hormones. So if you're experiencing high stress, that's going to produce elevated cortisol. Cortisol is that stress hormone that's produced in your adrenals. And your adrenals, for those that don't know what that is, your adrenals are these little glands that literally sit on top of your kidneys. And they really are kind of like this powerhouse that gets overlooked around hormones. So not only are they producing cortisol in response to stress, which some stress is normal for us to have, but lately a lot of us in this Western culture that we live in have extraordinarily high stress. So that's not good. And then that cortisol is also having an impact on some other hormone in the adrenal called DHEA, which is a parent hormone to your other reproductive hormones like testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. They all get made from DHEA. So with that being said, is that if you're experiencing these stressors and you're having some adrenal dysfunction that's going on, or what we call HPA axis dysfunction. So really it's the brain communicating down to your adrenals, and there's some miscommunications that are happening, then essentially all hell breaks loose. You're feeling fatigue, you're seeing slower metabolism, your blood sugars are staying elevated, you're having trouble with sleep. You're starting to shift in how much estrogen and testosterone that you're making. And so those all are playing a big role in your energy, your metabolism, your blood sugar balance, even how your liver health and your gut health are being impacted. And so, yes, hormones and hormonal imbalance is quite pervasive. It's so pervasive is that there's not many people I haven't met that doesn't have some form of hormonal dysfunction in Western culture specifically. That's how pervasive it is. And don't even get me started on the thyroid. Don't even get me started on that. Because that throws in a whole different realm of complication to the picture.
So what do you do? Okay, your hormones are, I mean, we're talking about nutrition here. Can you fix the hormones through nutrition, or do you have
Yes.
to get
Yes.
outside intervention? Okay, can we talk about that?
Yes, you can absolutely fix the hormones through nutrition and lifestyle. It's not just nutrition and lifestyle. One of the primary things that we talk about in hormone imbalance is the importance of making sure you're eating in a way to produce these healthy hormones. And so this is what the healthy plate guidelines should be. It's a little different than the old school 1980s, 1970s food pyramid. In the healthy plate guideline, we're really prioritizing half our plate with vegetables, right? And if you're trying to watch your weight and really trying to balance that, you're really looking at non-starchy vegetables, the leaner vegetables that are lower in carbs. And then a quarter of your plate is going to be protein. And then another quarter of your plate is going to be like some type of slow burning carb or resistant starch that might come in the form of whole grains like quinoa or wild rice, or it can even come in the form of beans. Although I do know there's some people that want to get at me about the lectins, but there are ways that you can get around that. I always say if beans were that horrible for the human race, none of us would be here. Our ancestors literally depended on grains and beans. So don't start with that either. So there's ways to get around that. But yes, if you balance out your plate, those pieces and mechanisms are also going to just help release enough nutrients like phytoestrogens. You're going to find that in a lot of nuts, seeds, and veggies. Phytoprogestins as well. You find those in fruits, vegetables, and other nuts and seeds like sesame and sunflower. And so they act as these natural compounds from the plant that can actually mimic our hormones in our body. And that's nice because then, when we're running low, it's going to help us feel like we have enough. And if we have too much, it can block off the receptors. So then we don't go into a dominance, like estrogen dominance, for example. So having extra plant-based phytoestrogens like through soy and through flax, for example, are really great tools to be able to blunt that. So yeah, you can use through nutrition. But I also want to mention with the lifestyle piece, hormones love it when you move your body, right? Like they're moving all over your body. You need to move your body in order to effectively move them, right? So you got to do body movement. That is necessary. You can't just sit around and think that that's going to be enough. You also need to understand the importance of stress elimination. I didn't say management. I said stress elimination. That means getting real clear on who and what is being a pain and you know what, you know what I mean? And then getting real clear in your healthy boundaries of just saying, that's enough. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm delegating this. You deal with this. You leave me alone, but putting in place those healthy boundaries. So then you're eliminating the stressors that are then placing extra burden on your hormones, your liver, your gut, and all these other pieces that are just making you feel bad.
What's a good, clear indication that you're overstressed? I mean, besides weight gain, is there a specific part of your body that gains more weight as the stress levels go up? And why is that?
So one of the primary areas that you'll see weight gain with a lot of stress is belly fat.
That's
You get
why I
that
brought it
belly
up.
jiggle. You're
So
seeing more
look around you. If
cellulite.
you got some belly fat, you got some eliminating to do in your
Yeah, if
life.
you're seeing that belly fat, we're not talking about the nice Beyonce pear shape where you got a little booty, you got a little hips. That's okay. If it's in the lower area, they said that's not fine, but that's fine. But if it's in the belly area, the problem with belly fat is you got to also think about what is in the area of your belly. So it's your gut, it's your liver, it's your kidneys, it's your blood vessels, all these important organs, your pancreas, your gallbladder, your stomach, it's all these important organs there. And so when fat is accumulating around it, right, it's going to put more pressure on these organs to function. And so this is where people start getting fatty liver disease and where you start having high cholesterol. And then you start getting pre-diabetic and having higher blood sugar levels because the fat's literally encasing and putting pressure around all of these vital organs. And so cortisol also is the biggest thing too, in that where cortisol is driving the stress, is being driven by stress, cortisol rises. And as cortisol is rising and trying to essentially figure out where to go, it's going to make more fat cells as a result of that. So that's another reason why you tend to see a deposit there. Although I will say it really can go all over. It's not just the belly either.
I want to touch on one more thing about nutrition before we shift gears and start talking about hydration. Thank you so much for touching on all this. This is beautiful. I'm glad you're talking. We're talking about beyond nutrition. It's like, no. And maybe you could touch on the metaphysical, what is it? Your expertise in metaphysical medicine. Like, what
Yeah.
is that exactly? Maybe just share with us. What is that?
Yeah, so the metaphysical medicine is more of like the new age term. I really call it, understanding the spirit realm, but it's really the things that cannot be seen. It's the stuff that goes beyond the five senses. It's the stuff that goes beyond logic and ego, right? It's really getting into the realm of energy and spirit, and also getting into the realm of things that occurred long before we came in on this planet, and also the things that are occurring around us that we don't even get to see and recognize because we're just so caught up in our own little human lives. And so the way that I employ metaphysical medicine in my practice is, we're all spirit powering these bio machine avatars walking around. Like we have this flesh, but behind the flesh, there's this higher conscience. And this higher conscience is our spirit. And I've always tell people that disease begins in spirit before it begins anywhere else. It's an energy. When there's a disruption in the energy, in your electromagnetic field, in your aura, in your spirit, in your soul, whatever term you want to use, when there's a disruption there and there's a misalignment there, it's going to spill over into your mental space. It's going to spill over into your material space, which is your physical body. And so when we're talking about even, weight management, for example, and trying to lose weight, how do we get the weight on to begin with? I'm going to give you an example of a metaphysical approach to that. Okay, so what are you eating and storing in internally from an energetic perspective, right? What are you swallowing and holding in and holding onto your frame from an energetic perspective? Trauma, first and foremost. Are you storing trauma in your spirit? Are you storing trauma in your energy field? Have you let it go? Have you talked about it? Have you acknowledged it? Your voice, your ability to speak and talk about it, has that been taken away from you and you're just swallowing and eating it down? Are you being forced to be something that you're not, so you can fit into a box or fit into a paradigm that isn't truly who you meant to be? It doesn't match your soul's blueprint. It doesn't match your soul's vibration. So now you're holding on to these excess material aspects that are enlarging you, you know, versus if you were just to let it all go and just say, this is who I am, I don't care anymore, this is what it is, I release it, then you'll drop the weight along with it too. You know, so it's really having these deeper conversations about why are you here? What has shaped you? What has affected you? What has caused you to make the decisions that you've made? What is informing you in your existence, right? Are you living day to day, living through a mission and a purpose? Or are you just aimless and lost? And as a result of it, you're anxious and you're spinning out, right? So that's where the metaphysical comes in. It's more than just sitting with a shrink, taking notes and you venting. It's really getting you to connect with your in your internal self and that energy field and really figuring out where do we need to get that pollution cleaned out, right? What is polluting it?
Mm, I'm eating all this stuff. And then not to mention, you've got your gut microbiome that has their own signaling pathways that are
Yeah.
affected by this energy and this energy
Yes.
from.
Your
Thank you.
cells in general, all your cells in your body are being informed and affected by it, right? All of it.
Mm, okay. All right. So let's shift gears, and I hate to do this because I could talk about this. This is its own segment, the metaphysical. But let's talk a little about hydration. So I was at this Dr.
Yeah.
C peptide conference recently, or peptide certification course, and he was saying that patients who are on GLP-1 medications don't feel a sense of thirst. You know, that kind of it affects your senses of
Mhm.
thirst. So can you talk about that and why hydration is so important when you're taking GLP-1 medications?
Yes, yes. And so, in general, you know, it's important to recognize that our bodies are predominantly water. Okay. So, even, yes, definitely taking GLP-1 medications, you really need to prioritize hydration, even more so because you're getting this brain response. You know, your brain is literally being regulated to where you're reducing your appetite. And when you're reducing your appetite, it's not just food, it's going to reduce intake in general. So, that's probably why you know some folks end up running thirsty or don't even know it because it's dampening that aspect in our brains to alert us to that and there's probably some other deeper mechanisms going on too that we can save for another day. But you know, getting back to that piece of, you know, why is hydration so important? Most of our cells and our body is made of this beautiful matrix of H2O. And H2O doesn't have just three phases of ice and air, vapor rather, and water. There's this fourth phase, which is this matrix that we find in our cells called the ECM, the extracellular matrix. That's where a lot of amazing activity happens. You know, that's what really fires off our energy, allows us to renew ourselves, slows down aging, prevents inflammation. You know, so it's more than just drinking water to stay hydrated. It's understanding what is the purpose of hydration. It's so that these mechanisms can take place. Plus, water itself actually has its own energy and its own imprint. And so, like I said, this is the metaphysical piece, the things you don't see and think about. You know, the type of water that you bring in matters, right? You're getting in polluted water from your tap that might have traces of like fluoride and plastics and phthalates and parabens. So you're taking in toxic water, so you can be hydrating and still feel horrible hydrating because technically your water and the imprint of that water has been polluted. So therefore, technically, when it's coming into your body, you're also bringing in those pollutants. So this is where drinking high quality spring water matters. You know, or getting a good filtration system. I like reverse osmosis that brings in the remineralization. That way, I'm still getting the trace minerals that are necessary for you to, again, feel hydrated. So if you don't have trace amounts of sodium and magnesium and things along those lines, again, you're going to miss out on feeling as hydrated because that's energy. And that energy needs to be able to cross through these different barriers and to be able to move these other compounds so that we can actually feel good and feel vibrant. Otherwise, you know, we're kind of like, we literally feel kind of dead, you know? So, did I answer your question? I'm sorry. I can sometimes start
No,
out
no,
on my
no,
own
that's
time.
perfect. And now is the whole pH water, like, is that a thing, or can you, yeah, how,
Okay, to a certain degree, yes. So in general, water is is an alkaline substance, okay? But but then we start getting into these different folks. It's like, okay, you need alkaline water. Our water has even higher pH than normal water. And I think when someone's really ill, that actually might have an impact, because you're talking about someone when they're really ill, they're more than likely have a lower pH. It might not be seen through lab testing, but in general, disease creates a more can't disease cannot occur without there being more of an acidic body, more of an acidic environment. So I think in that regards, if we're talking about hydrogen water, which I always say, we need hydrogen water. Water already has hydrogens, but it's different. It kind of has even more saturation of hydrogen in hydrogen water. And for those who are already chronically ill, drinking maybe a higher pH water or drinking hydrogen water will make you feel better, because it's bringing down that inflammation and balancing out your natural pH. But if you're healthy, you're really not going to notice a difference, because that's what happened with me. I've tested them all, and I say, I really can't tell a difference. Now, not unless I've been traveling and, I've been wearing myself ragged, which again, I'm creating more of an acidic environment, right? Then when I take it, I'm like, oh, I notice a difference. But otherwise, it's not necessary unless there is more of a need for that, because you have a little bit more of an acidic issue happening from just being unwell.
So
Higher inflammation.
on the topic of hydration, wine and alcohol, so and coffee. Can you give us some recommendations if you're on GLP-1 medications? Should you limit your coffee and your alcohol? I mean, it's all hydration, right?
Yes. Sure about that. So the thing about coffee, although coffee does have some really great benefits, what I mean? The coffee plant has excellent antioxidants in it, but not if it's a Starbucks Frappuccino, guys. That's not that's not what we're talking about here. That's not going to do the job, okay? Not if you like putting a bunch of sugar in it and cream. That's not what we're talking about here, okay? It's like black coffee, and it's going through like a purified extraction process, and then yes, there's some benefits to it. It does have some antioxidants, and even wine. Wine has resveratrol, which is a polyphenol. It's an antioxidant. However, drinking, one glass of wine is different than drinking a bottle, right? One cup of coffee is different than drinking 30 ounces or 20 ounces, right? So what I usually tell people is, let's break this down. If you are trying to adhere maybe to like a Mediterranean diet, for example, that's a good example. You can have a glass of wine a couple of days out of the week, and it might be really beneficial for you. If you're having a glass of wine every single day, they actually will technically classify you, especially if you're a woman or identify as a woman, they'll classify you as being borderline alcoholic if you're having it every single day. With coffee, if you're having one cup of coffee, it's a couple of times a week, 3 times a week, not a big deal. Even if you're having it daily, but you're drinking plenty of water, you're doing all these other wonderful things for your body, 1 cup of coffee in the morning, if it's black, or you're using like, no sugar, plant-based milk or something like that, or you want to add some MCT oil to it, that's okay. But it's really about the moderation of it, how it's being imbibed, and what is the behaviors overall. I do want to say that if you're clutching your coffee because you're like, I'm too tired and can't start my day without it, that's a larger conversation that needs to be had. That means you're under that stress, adrenal dysfunction mechanism, and your circadian rhythm is messed up, and you're not getting that boost of energy in the morning that you're supposed to. We need to work on that. We need to fix that. Coffee's not the answer for that. In fact, caffeine can actually make adrenal dysfunction worse. So in that particular regards, I usually switch people over to where you can do, the mushroom coffee, you can do green tea. I make beet lattes. They're actually pretty good, guys. The beet powder lattes are actually pretty good, or matcha green tea lattes. Those are better for your body, or a protein shake in the morning. Those are a lot more better fuel sources to help increase energy. Coffee is not it. especially if you're clutching it and it's not just because, oh, I really want to taste these beans and it has this note of caramel and toffee. Like that's different.
Mm.
With wine, same thing. It's just watching out for how much you drink. The type of wine matters. So, sorry if you're doing like the bottom shelf uh box wine that's going to have more sulfites, more toxins in it, versus if we're getting like a really good quality wine that we're enjoying, it's going to have more antioxidants in it. So it really just all boils down to why you're doing it, what's the context around it, how much you're having, is it linked to some type of addictive behavior or some type of coping behavior, and is it masking something that really needs more professional help than what you wanting to talk about. But I do want to say those substances are astringents, which means they're drying. So, it's important to recognize, excuse me, I think, okay, they're drying. I thought I saw something. It's important to recognize that because they're drying in quality, they can dehydrate you. So when you drink coffee, wine, beer, even too much tea, like black tea, green tea, they can actually be dehydrating. So you do want to make sure again that there's a balance and that you're repleting your proper water levels when you enjoy those beverages.
Okay, all right. So we got that one. We got hydration check. So we got our protein, our diet, our hydration, fiber. Let's quickly touch on that because I do want to talk about the liver and some other peptide therapies. But fiber, what's the recommended dose per day if you're on GLP-1 medications, and why is it important?
Um, I would say for GLP-1 medications, you kind of have to, again, listen to your body a little bit. But really you're looking at least 25 to 30 grams of fiber. I feel like that's a pretty good guideline. Some might need a little bit more, especially if you're experiencing a little bit more constipation. You might need to even get yourself, slowly but surely moved up to like 35 grams of fiber. But you definitely got to hydrate if you're going to do that too. Because then if you're having all this fiber and you're not properly hydrating or moving for that matter, then you also can exacerbate and worsen the constipation and not make it better. You can make it worse in that regards.
Interesting. Okay, so hydrate, fiber, protein, check, check, check. Let's talk about the liver.
Yes.
Tell us about the liver. This is something you're pretty passionate about. So share with
Love
us
the
the
liver.
liver, the toxins, all the good stuff about the liver, and how can we cleanse the liver?
Yes, yes. So the liver is this it's one of the largest organs that sits in our bodies, and it's solid, that is, not broken up. And it's under our right rib cage, just for people to know where it's at. A lot of people don't even know where their liver is. So it's right underneath our right side of our rib cage, or just underneath our breast, right side of the breast. And it is protected by the rib cage. It's wedge-like in shape, so it has a bit of a wedge shape. And the liver is, I call her mama liver because she does it all. Without the liver, we're cooked. there's no saving yourself if you don't have a good liver. The liver is also just a super organ because it can regenerate. It's one of the few organs in the body that can self-generate. So if it does get damaged, it can regenerate again. But the reason why it's so critical for all of us is that the liver processes everything you're eating, even things that you inhale and stuff that's coming through the skin. It's all getting processed through the liver. The liver is making vitamins and nutrients. The liver is detoxifying. The liver is producing hormones. The liver is this incredible conductor of the body. And it really it's a master metabolizer, right? That's really what it is. It's a master regulator and master metabolizer. And so with the liver, it's supporting blood sugars, it's supporting hormones, it's supporting gut health, it's supporting even heart health, so many things.
So
And
how do you know your liver's damaged? Like, are there physical signs? Are you lethargic? Or do you have a color to you, a tint?
yeah, if
How do you
you if
know?
you really truly have liver injury, you might start to notice yellowing of your eyes. So the white of your eyes can start to become yellow. Your skin can even start to become a bit yellow or just like peaked and dusk and dull to look at. Some people even report that they can sometimes even feel upper right quadrant pain. So you might have upper abdominal right abdominal side pain. It can even radiate to other areas like towards the back or even just along the upper belly region. You might start to feel more nauseous. People who have liver problems will actually start to lose weight with it. If it really becomes damaged, you can start to lose weight with it. You might even notice vomiting as well. That's one of the things that can come along with it. But a lot of times people find out that they have liver damage incidentally through their labs. So this is the importance of getting routine lab testing. When you go in to see your doctor, they run a panel called a comprehensive metabolic panel, a CMP. And it's going to show multiple markers, including like your fasting glucose, you'll see electrolytes, but it'll also show your bilirubin, which can give you insights to around like your gallbladder. It'll show you ALT and AST, which are liver enzymes. And if you see that those liver enzymes are elevated, that is a key sign that you have liver damage. Ultrasounds and imaging can also see it as well. If they see a lot of fatty tissue around it, or just seeing that the liver just looks sick, it's not doing so hot, then they can, meaning it's shrunken and kind of dimply looking, then they'll let you know then like, yeah, it's your liver, there's a problem. And you can start to develop hepatitis and other issues with it, cirrhosis.
So are there supplements, are there foods that we could eat to cleanse our liver or help with our
Absolutely. So
health?
going back to, you guys really need to love to eat your fruits and veggies. You really got to love to eat produce. Produce is one of the best liver foods. So eating your vegetables, eating your fruits. When I just say eat the rainbow, the liver loves it all. Dandelion greens, and having dandelion tea, milk thistle, or psyllium. That's a really great tea and herb to have. Oats, such as like oatmeal and things like that the liver loves that. Eggs, it has choline. So the choline is supportive of the liver. B vitamins. So this is where eating high quality animal protein, marine based protein, because they're going to be more concentrated in B vitamins. For those of us who can actually tolerate, I guess, dairy products, you can add that in too. Certainly the vitamins A, D, E, and K, like the liver depends on those fat soluble vitamins to help with metabolizing. You're also eating foods like broccoli and cabbage and cauliflower. It has sulforaphane, which is helpful in another phase of detoxification for the liver. Zinc. So yeah, I mean, I just told you numerous, like just eat a well-balanced diet and you'll be supporting your liver. Let's just put it that way.
Someone wrote, is this safe for a person recovering from cancer?
What is specifically?
I think what you're recommending, the recommendations.
Oh my gosh, if you're recovering from cancer, you absolutely need to be eating your fruits and vegetables, right? Like that is tops, whether it's steamed, whether it's roasted, eating a nice salad. I think that's one of the things that depletes people. And when they're doing cancer recovery and survivorship, you get told like, you can eat anything in one regards, but then they tell you watch out for the healthy foods, which I'm not going to go on a whole soapbox, but I'm just going to say you use your common sense, right? Like I think it makes more sense to get in more fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds, right? Than ice cream and white bread and rice. You're not going to get as much out of that. Your cells need to be able to fight. So that includes your liver and that includes your other cells as well.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have time to touch on peptides and functional medicine. I think that's a whole segment of its own. So that just
Yeah.
You have to come back, Dr. Ray. We love it.
Sure.
But any last words if someone wants to find you, where can they find you? What are some of the services that you could provide to individuals who are looking into functional medicine?
Yes, awesome. So yeah, if you would love to work with me, learn more about my practice, it's A Dose of Vitamin Ray. I'm bi-coastal. So I'm licensed in California and I'm licensed in New Hampshire as a primary care doctor, but I also do health and wellness coaching nationwide. I offer primary care services in the two states of California and New Hampshire. And then with the wellness coaching services, we really work on nutrition and lifestyle. We work on spirit and energy. We work on helping you to figure out how to build a therapeutic life, how to build a therapeutic environment around you so that life isn't feeling so hard. It's actually nourishing you in every step of the way. I have programs where people can enroll and do concierge care. So if you need a little bit more hand holding, then I can do that for you. But you can find all my information on drraynd.com. That's DRRAYND.com. And if you're looking for a little bit more of the metaphysical, needing a little bit more insights there, then you'll be able to tap into my spiritual based services, my shamanic based services through my website as well. And then on my socials, my handle is at Dr. Ray. You can find me on Instagram, but on LinkedIn, but I really love being on Substack these days. So look for Breaking Free for Healing Ascension Substack. And that's where you can find more of the metaphysical side of the services and information that I offer. But thank you so much. And I'm really so glad that I was able to join you all today and be here. It's just a pleasure. And I hope this was helpful.
Oh my God, totally. So insightful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And we have to bring you back to tell us more about peptide therapy and longevity and everything
Yes.
that we love talking about. So thank you all for joining us this evening. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. I know I did. Thank you again, Dr. Ray. Have a beautiful rest of your evening, everyone, wherever you are. Love you all so much. Mwah. Have a great evening. Take care. Thank you, Dr. Ray.